Okay, so hello to my channel. Good morning. It's early morning here. Today is going to be my video thanking Dr. Jordan Peterson. In previous videos I was talking about maybe saying thank you for all the free content I'm consuming from him. Maybe doing a review from his book 12 Rules of Life. However, today I decided to say thank you in a different way. Before going into the video, just leave me in the comments if you think it's going to be a good idea to do a review about that book, to promote his work, being grateful as maybe reviewing a great book. I don't know if it's going to be as good as a book as Meditations, as many other great books that I would like much more to review, but yeah, maybe a good idea. Leave me in the comments. But instead today I decided to give thanks to him in a particular way, which is repeating a class he gave that I was watching not long ago, and doing the same structure he did with the same study material, but improving the class he did. I'm gonna leave in the link below in the description the class I watched from him. And in this video I'm gonna use the same video he used in his class. However, I'm gonna add a different point of view, which is gonna be much more valuable, for sure, for you as a person, for you as a seeker of the truth. As you know, I might be being grateful and thanking him right now for his job, but I always complain that Jordan Peterson never mentions compound interest. Never mentioned one of the most powerful forces in the entire universe, which I think goes against the image he tries to sell of this guy that is really worried about helping the world, about helping others, that he breaks in tears when he realizes that he's helping others to open their eyes, to achieve a higher level of living. But it's surprising that a person that doesn't care about, that a person that cares so much about others never spoke about compound interest. If you looked in Google, you will rarely find him talking about that, and the only situation where he mentioned it was related to psychotherapy, like to personal growth, from a point of view of a psychologist, rather than using the point of view of my case, that is an investor, someone who's making his money from different sources of business than what he does. And that's why I think my way of doing the video is going to be extremely valuable. And we're going to put the movie that he showed in his class, and I'm just going to make some additions to the movie, and we are gonna dive into very, very interesting things. In the movie you are gonna see some of the most interesting and famous figures of New York back in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, before the 1910 and so on. Many rich magnates, many important figures from Wall Street, bankers, as we are also gonna talk a little bit about gangs. Incidentally, it's not going to be a video about gangs today, but we are going to incidentally talk about that, and more interestingly about Jewish gangs in New York, the city where I am right now. So it's quite interesting, the video we are going to have today. And the last thing I would like to add before starting the movie and dive into all the things we are going to talk is that this is a quote from Jordan Peterson, a famous statement he does. You must choose your own sacrifice. Choose your sacrifice. And in the same way he chooses his own sacrifice and decides to sacrifice himself, being the person in charge of telling others to sacrifice in that special way. Myself, I decided to sacrifice too, and I'm gonna be the person that sacrifices his image and talks specifically about business and about compound interest, because that is gonna be extremely helpful for you as a person. Differently to what Jordan Peterson does, I'm leaving the group aside and I'm focusing myself in you, the viewer, the person who's watching me right now. I'm gonna give to you information that's useful for you. That's not bad quality education as the one we experience currently. It's not cultural changes as a book in education described, It's not like Jordan Peterson that's a great educator that makes cultural changes in people. This is going to be something very personal. This is going to help you as a person. So stay tuned and pay attention, because today you are going to receive a lot of valuable information. We are going to talk about history. We are going to talk about Jewish people. We are going to talk about Nazism and many other interesting things. But at the same time, I'm going to reveal to you some information that's going to be very useful for you as an individual. Okay? So you don't have to sacrifice yourself so much as Jordan Peterson says to the world, right? Choose your own sacrifice, because the world is full of people that must be sacrificed to accomplish diversity, the diversity that we need. But the last thing is that myself, I sacrifice too. And I'm going to be the figure that will talk to you about something very important too. It's going to be different. And the bad thing about my sacrifice is that will mean that I will need the help of other teachers, other professors, other YouTubers, other communicators to teach you other pieces of knowledge that will be very important for your development. Yes, in the same way the Greeks have a pantheon with multiple gods, and each god is the archetype, as Jordan Peterson would like to say in his class. There is archetypes, as each god is an archetype of something important that you must learn. One is the god of thunder, of control, of government. The other is the god of war. The other is the god. There's archetypes. In the same way, I'm gonna need other figures in a pantheon of teachers who can teach you more things than the one I'm gonna show you today. And that's the last thing I wanna say. I'm choosing my own sacrifice, and this is a very powerful sacrifice. So I hope you pay attention. So we are going to start the movie right now. We are going to see a propagandistic movie from the times of Nazi Germany, probably did by Goebbles, which is describing the Jewish population and their history and their behavior and their relationship with Germany and the world back then. And the interesting stuff about this movie, it's not funny for myself what happened to the Jewish population. What is funny for me is that after decades, this movie, while it was done with the intention of generating hate, generating disgust, convincing people to start the Holocaust, convincing German people to start the Holocaust. The funny thing is that nowadays, when I look at this movie, it's like a documentary because have many valuable images out of the horrible and mistaken message it has. I just see admiration for the people I see in this movie. Maybe it's because of the professional decisions I took, because I'm different than Jordan Peterson. I pursue different stuff. I think Jordan Peterson doesn't manage investments, is not starting a hedge fund. He makes his money in a different way. But in my sense that I'm studying business, that I'm studying investments and compound interest, when I see these people, I just feel admiration, because they represent many things that are examples for me to do things in a better way. But we're gonna start the movie, okay? And just saying that when I see this movie, I don't feel hate, I feel admiration. And but it's gonna be very interesting to see how these wicked minds from those times are trying to cultivate hate within us. So thank you very much, and we are gonna start the movie, and you are gonna learn some very interesting things along the way that I'm gonna share with you. also with the things you're gonna see in the movie, okay? See you there.
The campaign in Poland gave us the opportunity to really get to know the Jewish people. Nearly 4 million Jews live here in Poland, but they won't be found among the rural population, nor have they suffered from the chaos of war as has the native Pole. They set it out indifferently in the gloomy streets of the Polish ghetto. Yet within an hour after the German occupation, they were back in business. We Germans had a look at the Polish ghetto 25 years ago. This time our eyes are sharpened by our experience in the last few decades. Unlike in 1914, we no longer see just the most grotesque and comical of these questionable ghetto figures. This time we recognize that there's a plague here, a plague that threatens the health of the Aryan peoples. Richard Wagner once said, "The Jew is the demon behind the corruption of mankind." And these pictures prove it. Jewish home life reveals remarkable lack of creative ability to civilize. In plain language, Jewish dwellings are filthy and neglected. These Jews aren't at all poor. After decades of business, they've hoarded enough to acquire decent, comfortable homes. But they live for generations in the same dirty and bug-ridden dwellings. Untroubled by their surroundings, they go right on with their prayers. The bobbing motion is part of the ritual for reading Jewish scriptures. The main part of Jewish so-called community life takes place in the street. Seldom are Jews found doing useful work. And when they are, as here, it often isn't voluntary. The German military government is making them clear away rubble. It appears that they're not used to working and don't like it either. This isn't helplessness that's to be pitied, but something entirely different. These Jews don't want to work, but barter. Here, they're in their element. It's not true that Jews are forced into trade because other professions are closed to them. On the contrary, they welcome trade eagerly because it suits their character and natural inclination. One might want to regard these haggling children as a sign of great poverty. But watch them a while, and it becomes clear that they're proud to act as their grown-ups do. These young people don't have the idealism that ours do. With them, the egoism of the individual is not in the service of higher common goals. Instead, Jewish morality, in crass contradiction of the Aryan concept of ethics, proclaims the unrestrained egoism of every Jew to be divine law. His religion makes cheating and usury a duty. In the 5th book of Moses, for example, it is stated that a non-Jew thou may loan to upon usury, but not thy brother. That the Lord may bless thee in all thy dealings. For the Jews, then, doing business is something holy. This is totally incomprehensible to non-Jews. Aryan man attaches a sense of worth to every activity. He wants to create something worthwhile, food or clothing, houses or machines, works of art or anything else of value to everyone. He's ruled by the feeling of being responsible for his achievements. For the Jew, There's but one thing of value: money. How he gets it makes no difference. The first trade goods are generally worthless trash of all sorts. That's how the little Jews start out. Soon, they reach the point where they can sell from a tray, and before long, they've assembled a complete line of goods. Not long after, they own a regular stand. The most ambitious soon own a small shop and then a bigger shop. The most cunning, that is, the most unscrupulous, eventually have warehouses and banks and move into the most splendid mansions in the cities, provided that they don't get in each other's way, as in the narrow ghettos of the East.
Okay, so first thing we observed, what an enormous level of envy is the description of Marxism, of fight of classes, envy for the people who have. And the thing is, nowadays we have a much better understanding of how people operate, of the value that people bring to the table when they do different stuff. But we are not only seeing envy, we are also seeing what Jordan Peterson described as narcissism in the way he likes to describe it, which is people who feel that deserve to be something without having the merits nor doing the hard work necessary to achieve being that. So Jewish people back in the day, they were in the position they were because they earned that, because they had the experience of doing that, because they were people that live moving from one place to another, and that made them good at these type of activities. Which in the movie we see how they try to sell us that the people that works at the end creating commerce are parasites instead of very valuable people, which because they are very valuable people. The last part of the chain of production to selling is the most important part. It's the part that is in charge of finding people who need something and making sure it arrives to the people that need something. It's the people in charge of selling something because it's in their interest to achieve a sale. So a population start trying a new product and start having experiences around it, and people start speaking about those products because someone sold those products to them. So then the sales start going and growing by themselves. And this is a job that the producer, the manufacturer, cannot do by himself. And the thing is that the envy that the left generates, that makes no sense, because sometimes the riches of people isn't based in his interest of money or whatever, or all the things they are describing, but the source of their wealth comes from the fact that they are in a position, they are in charge of a certain type of job that allows them to earn good money in comparison with other jobs. The producer, the manufacturer, unless they experience a catastrophe where they are the only producer for a big group of people, they hardly can raise prices of a good or commodity. And even if they put the products expensive on purpose because they are one of the few that produce them, people will be very revengeful towards them, and they will invade their factories and they will take revenge because they raise prices. However, the people that sell the products at the end, Of course they have the chance of making more money because they have the liberty of grabbing a product they have in stock and sell it where it's more appreciated, of making the sales process of finding within a neighborhood that home, that sector where a good or service is highly appreciated. Therefore, people is willing to pay more money for it and sell it in that place first. And deny giving services to poorer people until all those sales are completed and all that money is captured. And when that money is captured, that money finances getting more stock and giving it to poorer people at a lower price. Because poor people cannot appreciate a product because they don't have the money to pay it, or because they don't have the money to overpay it, or just because they cannot process why something is important. And they really need to have a salespeople offering it with a discount. But the thing I'm trying to underline is that Jewish people were working in positions that produce more money than the manufacturers. And this of course produced envy. Yes, and what we are seeing here is pure envy. Myself, I see admiration because I admire them, because I want to learn from them. And it's incredible what they achieved. Plus, in that time, these people was much more educated. And we will keep watching the video and we are going to talk a little bit about that, okay? But we are going to continue watching the movie.
That's why they try to escape to rich lands with rich people. They need other peoples because they need the wares with which to do business. What creative Aryan peoples find of value has been reduced by the Jew to mere merchandise. He buys and sells, but produces nothing. The production he leaves to the workers and farmers of the host nation. The Jews are a people without farmers or workers, a race of parasites. Wherever the body of a nation shows a wound, they anchor themselves and feed on the decaying organism. They make business out of the sickness of the nations, and therefore endeavor to deepen and prolong all conditions of sickness. That's how it is in Poland and was in Germany. The Jews have been this way throughout their entire history. Their faces bear the age-old features of the perpetual sponger, the eternal Jew, who, in the course of time and worldwide wanderings, has always been the same. There's no difference between these Jews in Poland and those in Palestine, though the two are geographically separated. Palestine is the spiritual center of international Jewry, though the Jews are numerically insignificant there. Here at the Wailing Wall, they gather and mourn the fall of Jerusalem. Their homelessness, though, is a matter of choice, and in keeping with their entire history. 4,000 years ago, their Hebrew ancestors were already wandering. Out of the land of two rivers, they wandered along the sea to Egypt. where they ran a lucrative grain business for a while. When the country farmers and other Egyptians rose against the foreign usurers and speculators, they...
Okay, so we see again and again how it's mentioned their capacity of focusing on commerce and starting little to go bigger. And they demonized this attitude when this attitude was a source of them being more educated and smarter than the rest of people. And that's where narcissism gets in, of people who want to be someone else without having the merit and the achievement needed. Okay, Jewish people, especially back in the day, they produced an enormous envy, because imagine the desperation where you see someone that's smarter than you, that knows how to think, that knows how to planify, but it's impossible for you to capture that thing, that reach that's within that person. It's impossible for you. So envy arises, anger, a lot of feelings, because it's very difficult. Nowadays, not only because Nazism was defeated, but nowadays when we see these figures, we don't have all those feelings, because nowadays we are blessed with this resource that's the internet. When we see a very rich Jewish person, as when we see Warren Buffett, for example, that's not Jewish, okay, we are capable of simply Googling or starting making questions, and by ourselves, sometimes very cheaply, okay, realize what's the thought process, what's the strategy these people uses. And nowadays we are blessed by the possibility of realizing what is the process, the education these people have. But even if today, with all this technology, people is so ignorant and uneducated that often doesn't understand what compound interest is, imagine in those times, 80, 90 years ago, how uneducated was people and how little was the chance that they knew about compound interest, which is a very important way of thinking. It's a frame of thinking. But Jewish people, this is an information to look for. You know, it's an investigation to do another day. But I don't know if in all the synagogues, in all the yeshivas, in all the Jewish schools, they taught children in those regions about what compound interest was. But even if they weren't sophisticated enough to teach children about that in yeshivas or in synagogues, of course, having the proximity of being the group, the culture that was involved in lending money, this will naturally end up causing that the youth and the adults of those communities end up learning by accident or by lenders that were explaining to them how it works, how the business works, accidentally will end up learning about compound interest, because the same structure that's used for loans, you know, I give you 10%, and if you don't pay my $100, you owe me 110, but then next year you don't owe me 120, you owe me 121. Okay, that's compound interest. When people were explaining to each other how this business worked, they were teaching each other about compound interest. While the Christian side, the most traditional Germans, not only were extremely uneducated, but also have this speech against usury that you see so much in this movie. They talk against usury, and the disadvantage of this view is that it blocks people from learning compound interest. And compound interest is not only used for loans, it also can be used for commerce. You can pursue 40% return giving a loan at 40% interest, but in the same way you can achieve a 40% increase in your riches by buying a product that you buy for 1 and you sell it for 140, or even a little bit more, maybe 160, so you can cover expenses in the middle and keep that 40% increase net. Okay, compound interest works to understand commerce, to understand trade. It changes the minds of people. It makes them richer, because if they have a calling to donate a lot of money to their communities, or especially in those times, because they had to add that calling, they had to add also a desperation to accumulate money, because the world was very aggressive towards them, so they were desperate to accumulate cash so they can quickly move in case some crazy people decided to attack them. So we combine that knowledge in compound interest with a necessity to accumulate cash to protect their families, with a culture deeply engaged with lending money, therefore that naturally learned compound interest even if it wasn't taught to them. This affected their minds, the way of thinking, and of course, as a consequence of that, they ended up working in commerce and doing a lot of money. And it's just amazing how this movie describes how powerful they were. They started selling trash, and then moved into selling something with a little table, and after that having a store. The thing is that if you want to, with a normal German person, or even with Hitler himself, and you ask him if it's possible to grow so much within a lifetime, their mentality was so poor that they probably will say, no, that's very difficult, maybe sometime some people achieve it. But the thing is that the Jewish person, with understanding about compound interest, understand how possible it is to achieve that, and how in 25 years of hard work, of compounding interest on loans, or compounding interest on a stock of merchandise that you buy and sell, so you can buy more and you sell more, and you buy more and you sell more, and you sell more. They have a frame of thinking and intelligence that made them talented to do what they did. But of course, the German people were envious. They were completely stupid, and they had to demonize what they cannot be. Okay, nowadays we are not demonizing people because we can learn to be like them, right? But back in the day, no, people was quite crazy. So that's the thing I wanted to underline and mention, take advantage to mention compound interest and how it applies so much to this marvelous culture that was able to grow and to move out and do business in any part of the world. It was a skill, not a flaw. And yes, okay, so we will keep watching the movie, okay?
They wandered once more and plundered their way to the promised land. They settled there, mercilessly looting the culturally superior rightful inhabitants. Here, in the course of centuries, from the Oriental Far Eastern racial mixture with Negroid admixture, the ultimate mongrelized Jews developed. Foreign from us Europeans, born of totally different racial elements, they differ from us in body and above all in soul. We probably would never have been bothered by them had they stayed in their Oriental home. But the cosmopolitan empire of Alexander the Great, reaching from the Near East across half the Mediterranean, and especially the boundless world empire of the Romans, brought about the evolution of the trade and migratory traits of the Jews, who soon spread across the open Mediterranean area. While some of them settled in the large urban traffic and trade centers of the Mediterranean, others wandered relentlessly on across Spain, France, southern Germany, and England. Everywhere, they made themselves unwelcome. In Spain and France, the people rose openly against them in the 13th and 14th centuries, and they wandered on, mainly to Germany. There, they followed the path of the Aryan culture, creative Germans colonizing the East, till they finally found a gigantic new untapped reservoir in the Polish and Russian sections of Eastern Europe. The 19th century, with its muddled ideas about human equality and freedom, gave the Jews a great lift. From Eastern Europe, they spread across the entire continent during the 19th and 20th centuries, and then across the world. Parallel to these Jewish wanderings throughout the world is the migration of a similarly restless animal, the rat. Rats have been parasites on mankind from the very beginning. Their home is Asia, from which they migrated in gigantic hordes over Russia and the Balkans into Europe. By the middle of the 18th century, they'd spread over all of Europe. Toward the end of the 19th century, with the growing shipping traffic, they took possession of America as well, and eventually Africa and the Far East. Wherever rats turn up, they carry destruction to the land by destroying mankind's goods and nourishment and spreading diseases and plagues, such as cholera, dysentery, leprosy, and typhoid fever. They are cunning, cowardly, and cruel, and usually appear in massive hordes. They represent the elements of sneakiness and subterranean destruction among animals, just as the Jews do among mankind. The parasite nation of Judah is responsible for a large part of international crime. In 1932, the Jews, who made up only 1% of the world's population, accounted for 34% of the world's dope peddlers and 47% of robberies, 47% of crooked games of chance, 82% of international crime organizations, and 98% of dealers in prostitution. The most common expressions in the jargon of international gangsters and criminals stem from Hebrew and Yiddish words. These physiognomies immediately refute the liberal theories about the equality of all who bear a human countenance.
Okay, so here comes the interesting part. So you don't think I'm being so too defensive of Jewish people, okay? The statistic they just mentioned probably is just an exaggeration because they wanted to cultivate hate, okay, and discrimination towards Jewish people. In the same way they generate discrimination so they have benefits within their communities, right? And they create strong communities in any part of the world. They had that strategy. And now the payback from the German people was to generate discrimination on them. Not only because they had envy, but also because they knew about many of the defects they had, and they wanted to give them some of the, like, give a spoon of their own medicine, right? But it's all feelings, you know, childish feelings of resentment. That's communism, that's the left, that's neo-Marxism. But the thing is that they make a statistic here that probably is exaggerated about the crime and Jewish people. What is true, and here in New York, for example, is that the Jewish gangs were managing a lot of prostitution, a lot of shark loans, which is a loan where you make usury, where you loan little money and then you threaten people, blackmail people, so you can recover the money. And the thing is that most gangs were not Jewish, were Irish, were from different countries, combination of Irish with Italian. They were not Jewish. However, there was a time during the 30s, you can Google this, it's a historical fact, where a person, a Jewish person started managing one of the most important gangs of New York and converted the gang from a combination of Irish people and Italian into exclusive Jewish gang, which was one of the biggest gangs in New York back in the day. And they managed prostitution, they managed crimes, theft, burglary, shark loans, as I told you. They were loaning money to poor people that just arrived here and just leave the interest to grow so they could threaten them. And it was like a new way of slavery, because you were a slave of a Jewish person that was pushing you well, they were not Jewish, they were born Jewish, but they were sinning, that's not being Jewish. But you are the slave of a person that loaned you little money and now was pushing you to go and work all day so you can pay a debt that was just like a game for them. It was like a joke. They were just finding an excuse to push you and make you your slave, right? Those were called shark loans, and and many other crimes that were done by one of the biggest Jewish gangs during the 30s, 40s, 50s. And that's true. However, it's not true that the most of the crime back then were done by Jewish people, and all of these were exaggerations and were used to create hate and sadly just justify the Holocaust of millions and millions of decent, nice people that were killed by these guys. However, I just wanted to underline this. There is some truth in it. However, there's much more lies and much more propaganda. And so the thing is, again, in the following part of this movie, we are gonna see some noble figures from the Jewish community who were demonized, right? First they talk about the gangsters, so then they can put everyone in the same bag. At the end, we are gonna see some of the most incredible bankers, financiers, and philanthropists from New York that are going to be mentioned in this movie. However, we go again to the thing. They deserve to be where they were. They had a knowledge, an understanding of compound interest, and it didn't come from shark loans or from doing usury. They just applied the same concepts used on those businesses to grow other businesses, to invest in stocks, to take advantage of the stock market in New York, and so on. You're gonna see how it's mentioned in the following parts of the movie. But just wanted to underline this because I don't want to create a figure of the Jewish people being saints, right? They did a lot of things to gain the hate they gained. However, everything was propaganda, was exaggeration, was justification to steal the money from them, because they wanted to steal money from the Jewish people to finance the deficit. Leftist parties, as happens in the US right now, create deficit, and then if they cannot print money, because we are printing money in the US right now, they look for other sources to grab the money. And Hitler not only used war with Europe, he used hate towards Jews to steal their money. And of course he was planning to invade New York maybe in the future and steal the money from all the Jews you're gonna see mentioned afterwards. But we're gonna continue watching the movie, okay?
The Jews alter their outward appearance when they leave their Polish haunts for the rich world. The hair, beard, skullcap, and kaftan make the Eastern Jew recognizable to everyone. Should he remove them, only sharp-eyed people can spot his racial origins. An essential trait of the Jew is that he always tries to hide his origin when among non-Jews. A bunch of Polish Jews still wearing kaftans. And now, in Western European clothes, prepare to infiltrate Western civilization. Of course, these ghetto Jews don't yet move too well in their clean European clothes. Somewhat more adept are the Jews of Berlin. Their fathers and grandfathers lived in the ghetto. But that's not outwardly noticeable. Here, in the second and third generation, the assimilation has reached its zenith. Outwardly, they try to act just like the host peoples. People without good instincts let themselves be deceived by this mimicry and consider Jews the same as they are. Therein lies the enormous danger. These assimilated Jews remain forever foreign bodies in the organisms of their host peoples, regardless of appearances. Even aristocrats with old Jewish names, who've intermarried with the Aryan nobility for generations and are a part of European high society, remain foreign bodies. Here we show a scene from a film about the Rothschilds.
Okay, so this part is very interesting. Here we start seeing here some movies, like we see a movie into a movie, but these movies from America, from the United States, which despite they protected Jews a lot while they were being exterminated in Europe and other parts of the world. The reality is that America was quite anti-Semitic, especially on movies, and there you have a reminder of how anti-Semitic people were. And I'm gonna put right now a funny modern show which depicts how anti-Semitic they were, and even Disney, that nowadays they are a piece of cake, they are a sweetheart. Back in the day, they were quite anti-Semitic, and the punchline of this cartoon, this modern cartoon, is related with that fact that they were very anti-Semitic back in the day. However, America changed. It didn't become fascist because we benefited a lot from free trade and all these millionaires that you are gonna see after this, which really helped this country to grow, and they really help people to take advantage of the stock markets as they took advantage of the stock markets themselves. And and that's gonna be the last part of the movie before I just cut it. I'm gonna leave the link to the movie below if you wanna see the full movie, but yeah, this is gonna be the last part of it. And yeah, I'm gonna just leave you with the cartoon, and we will continue watching the movie afterwards, okay?
A wonderful, wonderful day for pie.
You want a nice shiny red apple to put in that pie?
No!
Brian, we could spend the rest of our lives here. It's perfect.
Sounds good to me. Doesn't seem to be a thing wrong with this place.
Hello, everybody.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. This is a Disney universe. Oh, but look how shiny my buttons are here.
Just push the...
Yeah, okay, I'll push the thing.
Family. It was made by American Jews, obviously as a tribute to one of the greatest names in Jewish history.
Mama, put away the silver.
I have.
They honor their hero in a typically Jewish manner, delighting in the way old Meyer Amschel Rothschild cheats his host state by feigning poverty to avoid paying taxes.
Hurry up, Carl. Come up, James. Over the fireplace. Remember, no deal for the last 5 days. Understand?
Yes, Father. Are you hungry? Not so very. Then look hungry. Look hungry.
Angela Solomon, you remain below. Mama, hide the roast. Get up, kid. Mama, take your sewing. There. Nathan, by me.
Nathan, take your hands out of your pocket.
Open up, Joe. Who is it, Nathan? Alan Rothschild. Why, it's my good friend, the tax collector. Bring out your account book. Certainly. Here it is. I was just looking over it. Things are very bad. I was saying to my poor wife, Dudula, this is our friend, the tax collector. Never have I known such a bad month.
No.
For 5 days, not one garden have I seen. Customers come, yes, but they don't buy.
No.
No one's traveling these days, so my exchange business is worse than nothing. I shall soon starve. Starve, eh? Huh. Something smells good. One of our neighbors must be having a roast. Close the window, Mama. What do you take me for? Susie, I don't understand what you mean. Rothschild, you're doing more business than any Jew in Jew Street. You're going to pay 20,000 gulden. 20,000? Oh. Why, a couch of the big merchants in the city doesn't pay as much as that. That's another matter. He's outside the ghetto. Oh. He's not a Jew. Oh, if you were going to kill me this instant, I could barely raise 1,000 gulden. Upstairs. Search the house. Pull the beds apart. Well, I might perhaps raise 2,000 gulden. Yeah. Very interesting. Much money is lost through sending gold by coach from one country to another. In times of war, it is seized by the enemy. In times of peace, by thieves. You are 5 brothers. I want you each to start a banking business in a different country. One to go and open a house in Paris, one in Vienna, one in London. Choose the most important centers, so that when money is to be sent from here to London, let us say, you won't have to risk life and gold and ship here in Frankfurt. We'll just send a letter to Nathan in London saying, pay so-and-so. And that will be offset by loans from London to Frankfurt. Understand? Yes. In your day, there will be many wars in Europe. And nations that have money to transport will come to the Rothschilds because it will be safe.
Hierzu muss bemerkt werden, dass der
Transfer of money by check is not a Jewish invention, nor was it cultivated by Jews for the good of mankind. It served them as a means of obtaining international influence over their host peoples.
No one brother must be allowed to fail while another brother succeeds. Your 5 banking houses may cover Europe, but you will be one firm, one family, the Rothschilds, who work always together. That will be your power. And when that power comes, remember the ghetto.
So Nathan goes to London and becomes an Englishman. Jacob goes to Paris and becomes a Frenchman. Solomon goes to Vienna and becomes an Austrian. Karl goes to Naples and becomes an Italian. Amschel stays in Frankfurt and remains a German. But of course, they all remain Jews. Therefore, when during the French Revolution, Jews became rightful citizens of their respective host nations, they each belonged to 2 nations at the same time. It's not for nothing that they have blood relations at all European courts, and are therefore intimately acquainted with what goes on at these courts and in the countries they preside over. In this century of industry and progress, Jewish business blooms as never before, The House of Rothschild is just one example of the use of this tactic by the Jews to spread their net of financial influence over the working man. The House of Warburg follows the same tactic as do other Jewish banking families. By the beginning of the 20th century, the Jews are sitting at all junctions of the world's money market. They're an international power. Though they make up only 1% of the population of the earth, their capital enables them to terrorize world exchanges, world opinion, and world politics. New York is today's chief center of Jewish power. The New York Stock Exchange, financial center of the world, is ruled by such Jewish banking houses as Kuhn, Loeb, Warburg, Hanauer, Wertheim, Leveson, Seligman, Guggenheim, Wolf, Schiff, Strauss, Stern, and so forth. These Jewish kings of finance love to play out their power behind the scenes and stay out of the limelight. Outwardly, they fit right in with their hosts. They look almost like genuine Americans. Bernard Baruch, Jewish financial advisor and friend of the American president, in the guise of a smart citizen of the United States. Otto Kahn, Jewish banker of Wall Street, enjoying his role as Anglo-Saxon lord. Jewish banker Felix Warburg. Jewish banker Mortimer Schiff. Jewish lawyer and German hater Samuel Untermyer. Professor Felix Frankfurter, Jewish legal advisor to the American president. Herbert Lehman, Jewish governor of the state of New York. LaGuardia, half-Jewish mayor of New York City. Henry Morgenthau, Jewish secretary of the Treasury of the United States. The Jew Leon Blum, former Prime Minister of France, who knows how to act just like a genuine Frenchman. Millions of French workers once greeted him as their party leader. The Jew whore Belisha, former Minister of War for England. English soldiers salute their commander. But the Jew is still a ruthless parasite even when in power, for his power doesn't come from his own strength. It lasts only as long as his misled hosts are willing to carry him on their back.
Okay, so that was it basically, and there you have some of the most iconic bankers from New York City back in the day. And we also had a beautiful mention of the stock market, which is a very important subject to study. That would be my last recommendation. Not only study compound interest, understand that the stock markets are a good opportunity. Not only real estate is a good opportunity. However, it's people should be able to manage volatility, because real estate is less volatile as other investments. Stock market, if you are able to manage volatility, can bring excellent opportunities. But the last thing I wanted to mention is how beautiful is this documentary of many of the big Jewish names back in the day. Of course, Goebbels right there is trying people to demonize them. I don't demonize them. I see them as mentors, as people who achieve great things. I'm not a narcissistic that I think that I deserve to be in that place. I first have to learn the same things they learn and sacrifice myself in the same ways they sacrifice themselves before I deserve to be in that place. But of course, Nazi Germany didn't think that. They thought everything was a conspiration. And it's very funny, the movie we saw depicting the Rothschilds, the Rothschild family, and how they were creating stereotypes around them being cheap or trying to evade taxes. Not only anti-Semitism was a thing in Nazi Germany, it was also a big thing in America, and luckily that's diminishing right now. Well, Germany is in complete shame, and if they are not anti-Semitic, is for more for is for shameful reasons added to logic, you know. But I hope the United States learn how to keep being defensors of the freedom, and I hope you learn how to appreciate those figures that appeared on the last part of the movie I decided to share with you. And and that we don't fall again in the same mistake of being narcissistic. You know, sometimes people are where they are not because of conspirations, but because they have knowledge that we must learn. And so maybe in the future we can be in their place. Maybe we can replace them in the position they are, and we can send them back to Israel or to whatever country they are from, but after we learn from them. Because it's just madness to hate people that's doing something that you can't do, and the solution you find is to hate them and try to kill them, instead of you learning from them. So then one day you can go and say to them, man, I'm ready to replace you. And of course it's stupid to think that we can replace people, but I'm just saying that's much more sane and makes more sense than just hating people. Learn from others. Learn. Understand. Nowadays we are blessed. We cannot give space to the level of envy we saw that back in the day. We have resources to understand what we must study to be as rich as other people. And if we don't study, man, it's your fault to be where you are. And we will be very happy if you decide to work in factories, if you decide to work in production, you know. But you have the resources to learn from these people. Back in the day, people was desperate and very envious because they were trapped in their world. And they had these politicians that were feeling their ego, saying that they were great people despite they were not able to learn the same things Jewish people learned. But what I'm trying to say is that nowadays we can learn. We have free resources. We have the internet. So use them. So one day, instead of hating people, you can replace people and send them back to their country. But you know how? Saying to them, thank you for being a great teacher. What about if you go and bless your own land with your skills? Because now I learned your skills, and now I can bless my country with the skills I learned from you. And it's not gonna be hate. It's gonna be love. It's gonna be admiration. It's gonna be gratefulness, because we learn from each other instead of hating each other. And of course, we are not gonna send anybody back to their country. If they want to stay there and still being positive there, I think the logical thing is to leave them be. You know, if you learn to be as great as them, you can move out to a place where you are needed. In the same way, they moved to a place where they were needed, where you wasn't able to do what they were able to do. So that will be it. Thank you for watching. Remember, kill the envy. Don't be envious. Learn from each other. Love each other. And compound interest. Remember that, okay? Yeah. I hope this advice helped you a lot. And I hope this video was very positive. Okay? You have the full movie below. You have the class from Jordan Peterson below, in case what he did with this video was better than what I did. But yeah, you have everything below. Leave a like, comment. Again, tell me if you want me to make a review of 12 rules of life. But anyways, this was my thank you to Jordan Peterson for all the free content he gave me, and all the people that works with him spreading his content. And yeah, and thank you very much. And I hope you liked I hope all of you liked this video and found it valuable. Okay. Goodbye. And yeah, last thing I wanted to add that I forgot. Yeah, more of the same, man. We can learn from each other. It's not like back in the day. Even myself, when I write my books in finance and investments, I recommend you my book. Buy it. It's $25. Value investing, unlocking the secrets of long-term wealth creation. Even myself, that I don't go to a synagogue every Saturday. Even myself, when I write my books, I end up putting things of rabbis in my books. Because everything is so easy to learn nowadays. We are connected. Even if you are not Jewish, you can enjoy the rabbis they enjoy. You can enjoy the knowledge they enjoy. As Christian people enjoy their own priests, and they also were educated in some cases, despite the differences. But yeah, we can learn from each other. And thank you very much. Remember to buy my book, okay? It's very good. It's gonna help you. So thank you, and goodbye. Bye.
Remember those tragic days when Germany lay helpless?
Als Deutschland wehrlos am Boden lag.
The Jews saw their chance. Just like loyal citizens, they stepped forward as though deeply concerned about the fate of the German people. They rushed to the so-called National Assembly in Weimar, where Germany's future was to be decided. The Jewish representative, Landsberg, on his left, Schneidmann. The Jew Hirsch, Prime Minister of Prussia. The Jew Theodor Wolff, editor of a Berlin daily. The Jew Georg Bernhard, head of the Ullstein publishing house. The Jew Hugo Preuss, creator of the German Constitution. The Jew Walter Rathenau, foreign minister of Germany. The Jew Hilferding, German finance minister. The Jew Bernhard Isidor Weiss, assistant police chief in Berlin. Meanwhile, other Jews represented the radical line against law and order. In the guise of selfless humanitarians, they promised the masses castles in the sky, inciting them against civic order. Unrestrained personal freedom and self-indulgence for the individual. Rejection of all ideals and higher values. Submission to the basest life of material pleasures. Criticism of all that is sacred. Revolt against everything. Incitement of the young to class warfare and terrorism. It's no accident that this doctrine of destruction of nations sprang from the Jewish mind of Karl Marx, son of Margohai, a rabbi and lawyer in Trier. The founder and organizer of the German Social Democratic Party was the Jew Ferdinand Lassalle Wolfson. The Jewess Rosa Luxemburg, real name Emma Goldman, was a notorious communist agitator. The Jew Nissen was responsible for the murder of hostages in Munich. The Jew Frankfurter was the murderer of National Socialist activist Wilhelm Gustloff. The Polish Jew Grinspan murdered the German diplomat von Rath in Paris. Although they were a small minority, they knew how to terrorize a great tolerant nation. For every 1,000 Germans, there were 10 Jews. Or better said, for every 1,000 disunified Germans who fought among themselves, there were 10 Jews who, despite business competition, all had a common goal: exploiting the Germans. The Jewish merchants crowded into the cities. 3/4 of all Jews lived in the big cities, but not to work in the factories. They left that to the Germans. For every 1,000 workers in Berlin, there were 2 Jews. At the beginning of 1933, of 100 state prosecutors in Berlin, 15 were Jews. Of 100 judges, 23 were Jews. Of every 100 lawyers, 49 were Jews. Of every 100 doctors, 52 were Jews. Of every 100 merchants, 60 were Jews. The average income for a German was 810 marks. The average income for a Jew was 10,000 marks. While millions of Germans fell into unemployment and poverty, immigrant Jews acquired fantastic riches in a few years.